What is going on? I want to welcome you from half court today, November 2nd, 2022. I'm your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy to the right, Jeff Iafredi. Jeff, what's going on, brother? Good to see you, my guy. We were together in person in the LCA again this weekend. It was so good seeing you, man.
No, it was a blast, man. Shout out to the Pistons organization for hooking Woodward Pistons up, hooking us up.
Yes,
I had a blast.
sir.
We had plenty of network opportunities. Met a lot of people that watch Woodward Pistons as well, man. It's a blessing, really, to be in this position. But it was fun because honestly, going into the game, I'm not gonna lie to you, the confidence level wasn't the highest.
Mhm.
But as the game went on, it was a beauty to watch. I mean,
I will
it really
say,
was.
seeing the teal in person,
Oh my
holy,
gosh,
that was beautiful.
and then winning the teal too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the guy that we missed and, the guy that we had there with us opening night, we wish we would have had there last night, of course, my guy, Troy Sergey. Troy, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you guys. And yes, the Pistons are undefeated when you're in the building. How cool is that? Both of you guys.
Listen, I'm just saying, Jeff can't say the same with you. They're 2-1. I mean, the record's above 500 when you were there.
Yeah. We're getting there, Sean.
These
not on your level.
Can't be stopped when I'm there. That's all. Hey, Pistons. I'm not like, if you want a free title, I'm willing to be there in the building. I mean, if that crack house didn't burn down, I would have lived there. I would have lived in that crack house in front of the LCA.
Yeah, I know exactly what one you're talking about. When we went to Grizzlies and Pistons in 2019, we walked right by it. Yeah,
dude. So Robert who does the Pizza Palace, shout out Robert. He and I had this whole plan as a joke to buy it and turn it into a bed and breakfast, and now those dreams are dead, just like that house. Well, that house was long gone. Let's be honest. But
yeah. No business being there.
The other highlight of the night as well, we finally, Jeff, got to meet our guy Ashton in person. It was so good to see him. Shout out Ashton. Big love to the guy. He was super excited to see us. I called him and he popped up. He was like, "My guy!" I was like, "Heck yeah!" It was just really fun to run into him. And yeah, man, I will say we did talk briefly about Cade, and the sentiment was he's feeling confident right now. And that was the sense that I was feeling from watching him. That was the sense that Jeff was like, we all were feeling. And Ashton's like, yeah, he's feeling good right now, man. He's feeling good.
And on top of that, too, shout out to Ashton, shout out to Cannon. They were at the Lions game, coincidentally, too, which was funny. So he was in the weekend. He was in Detroit. He checked out the Lions, saw Akuda, had his Akuda jersey. Saw him at the Lions game. And then right after the Lions game, I went to Little Caesars Arena. Boom, there's Ashton. So honestly, it's always love for that family, man. I mean, they really are great people. They're great company. And the fact that Ashton took time out of his day to come see us, man. And he came over. He's like, "Hey, love what you guys do." I was wearing a Woodward sports shirt. He's like, "I got to get one of those." And then he told us strictly what you just said. And on top of that, he's like, "Listen, I've been telling Cade, work inside and then go outward." And he did that in the game, too. I mean, he was hitting a ton of mid-range shots. I mean, he looked good. So keep doing whatever you're doing. They keep working, man. People keep sleeping.
You know what else he said? He said Ashton's been tuning in every day.
That's big
so
time.
With that, brother, we are super grateful for you being a supporter, and we are grateful to everyone that are supporters of the channel of Woodward Pistons and everything that we're doing, because it is because of you that we were able to, have these opportunities, have these relationships, and be in these positions. And, with that, we're just going to keep doing what got us here today and what will get us wherever we go going forward. You know what that is, gentlemen? We're going to talk some mother basketball, because this is From Half Court. Where each and every week we do just that, baby. Talk the NBA and everything surrounding it, and specifically a whole lot of Detroit Pistons as well. If you like that, be sure you like this video, like this podcast, subscribe to the channel, and also share with a friend as well. And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can do so by going in the comment section down below, but also you can follow all of us on social media at our various handles, myself at Sean Halfcourt, Jeff at Jeff Iafredi, and Troy at Troy Sergey 44. I had that whole thing. I feel like that rundown, it's just like,
you nailed it.
It's like hopping into a pair of
too many times, man.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, guys. It's like we've been doing this for a while now, Jeff, you obviously, you've probably been in here for what, 40 episodes now, something crazy like that. It's been a minute. We're up to Holy cow, we're up to, this is episode 77. We're going to have to start planning from half court 100. That's crazy.
Yeah. And just to add on top of that, if you're watching this and you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, like the video, comment down below. We love the support. I read all the comments. So, because I know some people who watch the video, they'll be watching, it'll pop up on the recommended. Just hit subscribe. You'll see more content pumping through that feed. So don't be shy.
Not hard. Hit the button.
Don't be shy.
Well, even then, too, the thing that's been awesome is just seeing all the Pistons fans. Not only that we were able to meet, like, at opening night, like, Troy, we even, like, you even, like, met some people, too. Like, Jeff, you and I ran into, like, a whole ton of people that night. And then, like, in addition, the other thing that's crazy as well is all the people online that are telling us that you're watching from Australia, that you're watching from, from Switzerland or Scotland. You know what I mean? Like, there's people tuning into this freaking podcast around the world, which is crazy because this literally started in my parents' basement. And now it's a whole platform with a community. It's a network.
Yeah.
It is a network. Like, it's developing. And so, yeah, man, we're just grateful. So, and we're part of a network too, part of Woodward Sports doing what we're doing right now. So, yeah, man, just extremely grateful. But with that, guys, let's talk hoops. Let's talk about the game that Troy, I'm assuming you had to be watching. I mean,
I watched it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but whenever the Pistons play the Warriors, I'm never missing that, let alone like never missing that on television, let alone like I've never been able to see that in person. That was a game on my list for a long time. I was bummed I wasn't going to be able to go. I was literally having that thought in my head. I was like, man, I wish I could go to that game. Or like, man, I'm bummed I can't go to that game. And it's like, hey, man, Pistons won. I was like, oh, all right, here we go. But the thing that, like, first of all, I know the defense still wasn't the greatest. But, guys, I think the defense was better. And not only that, but also I think you saw what this offense can be when firing on all cylinders, right? Like, I think you saw the potential from what Isaiah Stewart can be when he's spacing the floor, his ability to get to the rim. He was looking a little bit more like that Al Horford type player that, he was talking about like wanting to be, right? Cade over the last few games, especially, has just been coming into all-star form and, has been top notch. Jaden Ivey, even though he was like the quietest of the starting group, had an electric 15 points. And when he did make a play, it was impactful. Overall, like, I just think, not only obviously this was, their best game of the season, because I mean, it was a win, and it was a win against, the defending NBA champions. But I mean, also it was their best game of the season just because of all the different aspects and signs that we saw. And Jeff, I do want to start with you just because, we were in the building, I was right there, right next to you. And you and I were talking a lot about during the game, like we're just the type of guys that we'll just, analyze everything we see, What were some of the things that you saw in that game? What are some of the signs that are encouraging? What are the things that are like still, still things that you find troublesome or like flaws? And overall, where are you at with the team right now coming out of that game?
Well, they still got ways to go defensively, but one thing that stood out and one thing that Dwayne hit on after the game is they communicated very well. So, and you saw that to a certain extent. I know Curry and Poole kind of had two quiet 30-point games, but overall, though, they had a great game plan. I thought going in, like, this is a team with the Golden State Warriors who are 29th in the league in block shots. So as a unit, they constantly attacked the basket, and that's what led to them really, and this is the most impressive stat, at least for me, 34 of 38 from the free throw line, constantly getting to the free throw line. And you saw it, you kind of mentioned it earlier, 4 starters for the Pistons with over 20 points. Yeah, it was their best game offensively, but defensively, although they have some things they still need to work on, I just thought overall they did play well. And again, you had Duren go down, which is never a good thing. Obviously, with the ankle injury, we'll see how long he's out. But overall, Isaiah Stewart, I thought, and we talked about this too during the game, Sean, too. I thought he was a good matchup for him. I mean, this is a team with Kevin Looney starting at center, Draymond Green, like these guys, for Isaiah, at least what he's been facing the last couple games with whether it's Clint Capella, Porzingis, it was a more of a favorable matchup, at least to me, and it showed that way. So overall, I like the game plan they had. They were at home, and this is what we wanted to see with this team. This is the flash we were waiting for, because throughout the first, I tweeted out the Memphis Grizzlies stat, 2-7, blah, blah, blah. But the overall point is what can you show me? And they go out, they beat the Warriors at home. I know the Warriors are struggling. That's still a good win. Even without Klay Thompson, it's an impressive win for this team, and it's something they could take moving forward. It just gives them confidence. It was a much-needed win, in my opinion. Like I said, still have a lot of work to do defensively, but overall, Sean, I don't know how any Pistons fans can't be satisfied with what they saw on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that the Pistons did on the defensive end, and we talked about this a little bit at the game, Jeff and Troy. I want to kind of bring you in on this. When you're playing a team like the Warriors, at the end of the day, that Steph Curry and Jordan Poole are both stars and they're going to go out and get theirs, right?
Right.
Like, you're not going to stop them from getting a bucket no matter how hard you try. You can certainly try to contain them, but at a certain point, they're going to go out and get theirs. It's if the big thing when you're playing a team like Golden State is that you don't want the supporting cast to beat you. Because if you have the supporting cast firing on all cylinders and you have Steph and Jordan Poole going off, that's when it gets dangerous, right? And so you look at that game last night, and don't want to tell the whole story from the box sheet, but outside of Curry and Poole combined for 62 points, outside of that, there was only one other Warrior in double digits, and it was Andrew Wiggins. It was 4 of 15 from the field. So Troy, they were better defensively, objectively.
Right.
And even the big thing too is, in particular, that second quarter when Detroit came in and went on a run. They held Golden State after allowing 37 points in the first quarter. They held them to 18 in the second.
Yeah.
They have flashes and abilities to be really good on the defensive end, and they showed it, right? But
absolutely.
also it was the flashes and things that they showed on the offensive end as well that's special. And I think the big thing, Troy, Cade Cunningham's looking like a freaking star, my guy. It is insane. What have you been seeing from Cade in this jump in year 2?
Yeah, definitely the career high, that second night against the Hawks. Unreal.
He had a great night 1 too.
Right, night 1 as well. And I think what we see from him is he's making this team truly his own. We saw flashes of that last year. I mean, we definitely knew towards the end of the year he was our number 1 option. There was no doubt about that. But this year, it's obviously the same, but you can just tell with the way he gets to the basket, the way he pulls up for that mid-range jumper. I mean, and the way obviously his leadership ability with just his character, he's taking this as his team. And so, I mean, really all the games so far, I haven't really seen one game where he's totally off. I guess the first couple, maybe he was, still getting in his rhythm, but we know that Cade's a guy who needs rhythm to get in the swing of things. But, and I think with the Warriors win last night, as of we're recording, I saw what I wanted to see was I saw the whole team was on sync. Specifically, the starting 5 was on sync. You think of a guy like Isaiah Stewart. The shots were falling, the confidence, the aggressiveness were around the rim was great. Saddiq Bey, shots were falling. He didn't look scared to get to the rim as well. Cade Cunningham himself, the shots were falling, getting to the rim himself. The story is the same for all these guys, which shows that they're in rhythm. They have the same goal, and really their best, their peak as far as this season and their ceiling of what we've seen so far was on full display last night. And went on to full display against the NBA champs, who, again, you both touched on that. They're struggling a little bit, was a win to watch. And a guy like Ivey, too, I feel like took a little leap last night in his rookie year. Not that he's having even remotely a struggling rookie year, but I feel like he had the confidence that he needed to take last night, too, that he can truly play against anyone in this league, including his favorite player as a kid, Steph Curry. So, that's what I got to say about the last night and Cade's performances. So,
no, I'm really glad you brought that up. And I know, it might be tough, watching this back, because I know right now the Pistons are currently down by 11 in the first quarter to the Bucks.
We'll get to it.
Yeah. Listen. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
We might have even already talked about it by this time this podcast came around. Okay. However, like you said, Troy, not only, was Jaden Ivey like a fan, but he was, a fan. And, he, it's the fact that, he's wearing the Pistons stuff too. This is, at a game in Detroit. And now, to go from that to dapping each other up after playing each other for the very first time.
Big time.
That's big time. Exactly.
You know how much confidence too, like that instills in a player. Again, it's not like Ivy had this huge night, but he played well. And to do it against the champs and Steph Curry, we know what Cade is. Like for Cade, and I want to comment quickly on the point you made about Cade, because something I noticed differently, the first Hawks game, the second Hawks game, and then this game we watched yesterday, he's just inserting himself much earlier. And that's something we talked about too, Sean, is like, it seemed like early on, because Cade is a dynamic player, he's a high IQ basketball player. So when he first starts, like kind of like LeBron, not saying he's LeBron, but the way he approaches the game, I'm going to get everybody else involved, then I'll get mine. There's going to come a time, and it was like this the last couple games, where Cade's like, you know what? I'm going to take the initiative, and then I'm going to get others involved. And that's something that I've seen. It's honestly been great to see, because Cade, it seems like all these people talking about Cade before the season and in preseason, it's either they've completely done a 180 or they just kind of are hiding. So it's interesting how these things work. When we all talked about it for multiple shows and videos, no one's worried about Cade. He is going to be just fine. And he's putting up a similar number this year. I know it's early in the season, to what we predicted, like 22, 6, and 6. Are we not like right on the spot? Like, this is what we predicted out of him. I don't think he'll make the All-Star team, but he certainly will be in that conversation. There's no doubt about it.
He's definitely going to be in that conversation, and whether he makes it or not, we'll ultimately see. Even when LaMelo made it last year, it's important to note that he did make it in like an injury reserve position too, so he wasn't originally voted in. So anything can happen. However, he's definitely going to be there, in the All-Star weekend on skills night doing something. And, he's definitely going to be in the Rising Stars Challenge. He'll probably win the MVP for that yet again. But but in all seriousness, I think the big thing with him, we talk all the time about how Cade's game is so predicated on making his teammates better, just like you said.
Which is great.
Yeah, which is absolutely great. And it's exactly what you want in a teammate. It's exactly why it was a number 1 overall pick. But the other thing, too, is that sometimes a thing that makes your teammates better is when you're going out and scoring and getting points on the board. Because a lot of times it builds confidence for your teammates to see that other guys are getting buckets as well, right? Like when you see shots falling for your team, that builds confidence and instills confidence in you too. So, and quite frankly, sometimes a lot of times the best basketball play is going to be when you're putting the ball in Cade Cunningham's hands, because you know what? That guy shooting the basketball, scoring in the mid-range is better on offense than the vast majority of our roster put together.
Yeah, so, and even in this game too, Sean, we saw that. The team was pretty cold to start off the gates, down 8 to 22 here in Milwaukee, and Cade Cunningham had 4 of those points, and then he heated up a little more. He had
first
10
of 20. Like he pretty much had half the first quarter points.
And what happened then? Then you saw a guy like Ivey get a good steal and a lay-in. You saw, you saw Sadiq Bey, I think, hit a shot as well. So, Hamidou Diallo. So, some of these guys can get in the rhythm after Cade starts things going. You know what I mean? To build the momentum is what I'm trying to say.
And another part of it, too, and this is what I love, and I know Ashton certainly has a part of this, or even Cannon to a certain extent, but just to show how smart of a player Cade Cunningham and being very self-aware. Look at his three-point attempts since the beginning of the season. This is what stood out to me. I was looking at this last night. Debuted against Orlando. They opened up a home opener. We were there. 6 3-point attempts. He followed up with 6, 8, and then look at the last 4 games. 2, 3, 3, 3. So what does that tell you? It's a guy who's not settling, getting to his spots. We saw it against the Warriors last night, Sean. A lot more mid-range shots. Obviously, he was hitting them. But that's a part of Cade's game that I can appreciate, like the self-awareness he has and the ability to adapt. And that it goes back to him having the IQ he has and getting the help. He has a great support system. But that's a good thing to see. Like within a couple games, he's able to just be like, you know what? And like Ashton told us at the game, like work inwards and then work outwards. It seemed like at the beginning of the season, he was kind of just settling a little bit and everyone's overreacting. Like what, saying whatever, a bunch of terrible takes. And the fact now he's made that adjustment, he's gotten even better. In the last 3 games, he's been on fire.
Yeah. And he's even starting to, like in this Milwaukee game, he's starting to get his 3-point shot going a bit as well. And the thing is, it's not just Cade. We've been seeing across the entire league, guys who have been historically pretty good shooters. Even LeBron, who's been a good shooter over his career, has been struggling. I know the whole Lakers. I mean, we're not even going to talk about them in this episode, by the way. We've made We will be talking, however, about Lakers East in a little bit. We'll get there in a minute, but sticking to the Pistons for a second. Obviously the Jalen Duren injury was probably the most sour moment of that game. It was really tough. Obviously don't rush him back. Literally, like, I would say sit him even longer than you need to. Like, come back when he's like 110%, because there's literally no reason to not, like, to not let him heal up and get back to 100%. And I think in addition, one thing that was particularly encouraging in this game was not only seeing Bojan continue to be excellent and have a 20+ point night, but it was also Sadiq as well. And I think, one big piece of it was an adjustment made by who, guys? Dwayne Casey, where what he did was he took Sadiq and shifted his minutes to be more with the second unit. So he got him more opportunities. And what happened when he did that? Sadiq went off. Look at that, guys. It's like this Dwayne Casey guy. Looks like he can coach all right sometimes, eh?
Yeah. Not to even remotely compare the players, because different era, different coaches. But you saw when the Pistons were struggling.
I know, right?
You saw when the Pistons were struggling in 2017. They put Tobias Harris at the 6-man unit too, and he was able to get buckets and facilitate. So that what I'm trying to say is, I guess in this team in the NBA historically, sometimes when a player gets to a rough start, you can easily do that and have impacts on your team. So positive impact.
And it's frustrating too, because you deal with a lot of these fans as well, them expecting things to click through 5-6 games. Like they're apparently Dwayne or even the players aren't allowed to make adjustments, especially with a team this young. That's probably the most frustrating. Like, you see now Cade and Jaden, their minutes being a little staggered, which I love, by the way, along with what you just brought up with City playing, with the second unit. Like, those things take time. Like, defensively, you can sit on Twitter and complain how they are defensively. What is it going to solve? They know that. Like, Dwayne, what do you think he goes into practice and doesn't address that? Like, that's something they're going to have to work on. So it's comical to hear these people's takes through 5 games. Like, it's all said and done with an 82-game season.
And even then, like, there's answers for why they're bad defensively. There's answers as to what these struggles are. It's not like like people are like, what's going on? And it's like, well, first of all, one of the youngest rosters in the league.
Yeah, defense always comes last. Offense comes first.
Second of all, depriving of personnel, and even then have injuries within their personnel, where they just are missing guys now, and missing guys with size as well. So a lot of different things, and not even to mention that the guys that they're missing, all veterans too. Guys who have played multiple years in the league. So
those matter. Those veterans matter on a young sport.
That tends to matter. And also when you're going and having a road trip and, you're facing like the New York Knicks, who, made the playoffs a couple years ago and only missed the playoffs last year because of health stuff. You know what I'm saying? No, we don't like to pay attention to that. Like, right? Like, it's okay. But it is what it is.
I blame the Lions for causing all this frustration this early on.
It's Dan Campbell's fault.
It's
all this fault.
But the Pistons are a treat to watch, man. I mean, I don't know how people can complain. I mean, even night in, defensively they're bad. They're still entertaining to watch, and this is what the season's about. These guys growing together, and we're getting, in my opinion, at least every bit of it. Even last night was a great example of that. So, plenty to look forward to.
Yeah, most certainly. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of nights like the Golden State night, where they're gonna have exciting nights with a lot of highlights and potential that shines through, right? And then there very well are going to be nights like the next night where they go out against Milwaukee and they're down by double digits and they're scratching and clawing to stay in the game, right? That's just the way it works with these young rosters. However, one thing that we are going to see, not only over the season, over the next couple seasons, is Bojan Bogdanovic in a Pistons uniform, signed to Detroit. Now, Omari Sankofa did just break down some more details and specifics on the Bojan Bogdanovic deal. It sounds like the sounds like the second year is not entirely guaranteed. Per a source, the second year of Bojan Bogdanovic's 2-year, 39.1 million extension is partially guaranteed at 2 million, but can raise if certain conditions are met. 2 million is the base amount. So that is where that is at right now. However, it seems like, as of right now, over the next couple of years, at least, in my opinion, at least through next year, he's going to be a Detroit Piston. And
Right.
all the reports and all the speculation that he had to be traded right away, which, by the way, for all these same fans complaining of how much losing we're doing, and then to turn right around and say this, one of the solutions is we have to trade our best player right now, or a guy who's playing the best in the first few games, mind-boggling to me. But that's a whole other conversation and can of worms that we could dissect at a whole different time. That's more of a psychiatrist's job than mine. But
the truth is, Sean, he makes this roster better. That's the biggest thing I have to say.
So much better. But also, guys, his value for stretching the floor and how he complements Cade and Ivey, slam dunk, guys. Slam dunk.
I've been hammering the table. I guess that's a metaphor. Wherever we were Pistons recording that, or we were doing draft shows, the number one need, I've said this too, with Cade and Jaden, you need spacing for these guys to ultimately, because how deadly Jaden is in transition, the playmakers they are, their abilities, especially what they attract defensively. A guy like Bojan, it's crazy to think that Troy got Bojan Bogdanovic for Kelly Olynyk and Saban Lee.
Yeah,
I don't think that gets talked about enough too. And the fact that that people were talking about flipping him for a first round pick, like, okay, if you think you were going to be so bad you're going to, that's fine. But the fact that you saw him through the first couple games, Sean, to your point, there's no way you're trading that man. The value he brings, you could talk about his shooting ability, but in my opinion, his veteran leadership, you saw, I think it was about 1:30 left in the fourth quarter, called everybody into a huddle. Bojan broke it down. Like, that's the type of guy you need around, and a guy that can be automatic offense. Defensively, it is what it is, but his offense, he brings so much offensively that you're fine with the defense. I think Bojan's an excellent addition, and for the price you got him at, I love it.
Yeah, even then, like you're making sacrifices defensively when he is on the court, but to your point, Jeff, the reason why is because he's such an addition and positivity on the offensive end each and every night that it literally doesn't matter. And like the thing is, with Bojan, and again, I know we talk a lot about the importance of having first round picks. And Troy, you know me, you know that I'm all for, getting those picks, getting assets, having strong assets. But guys, at a certain point,
you gotta keep them.
First of all, you gotta obviously gotta keep your picks. But the other thing, at a certain point, don't you just say to hell with picks? We need guys who can play basketball right now.
Yeah.
At a certain point, don't you say, hey, we have all these young prospects that are great and tantalizing. We're probably going to go get another lottery pick this next year to add to this wealth of talent that we have, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But guys, at a certain point, you need someone that is good and that comes in and is good. Because if you're going to get a first round pick, you're more than likely getting a pick that's in the mid to late first round.
Yep.
All likelihood, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're drafting someone in the mid to late first round, you are praying you're praying he's
Jordan
half
Poole.
as good as Bojan Bogdanovic.
And another, go on, Sean.
I was just gonna say it's asinine.
And before you go, Troy, I just want to mention this too. I can't remember who reported it. I want to say it's James Edwards, but if not, Amari Sokofor. One of them reported that this was Troy's plan all along. And the fact that everyone can be skeptical about whether you're trading him or not. The fact of the matter is, Brandon, Rod's been great at this, by the way. Shout out to Rod for always preaching. Just listen to what they tell you. Listen. Troy Weaver said, I want to say early this summer, talking about we can't have a team full of 21, 22-year-olds. Eventually, you're going to have to, start investing in players like a Bojan or like an Alec Burks, whatever it is. And the fact that they're planning on keeping them, it's no surprise to me, and it's the right move because you nailed it, Sean. You go draft a guy 25 to 30. No, Bojan's value is significantly higher than anybody you're going to get. And even if you do get somebody, if he's not Jordan Poole, what is he? You're basically drafting a rotational piece. You hope to be Bojan, to your point. So looking back, it was pretty stupid to even have the conversation. I'm glad Bojan's in Detroit for some
and
time.
again, it's because of and to explain why, and just to make sure that we're being as clear as possible, because everyone's like, oh, well, why? Well, then why would you trade Jerry? Like, like I could hear all that stuff. But listen, the reality is, and the reason why is because at a certain point, you get so many young assets that you like. You get a young core and a nucleus that you've built. You want to go get talent to complement those players that you have. And in addition, you need some balance. You need guys that are older on the court. That's why Corey Joseph was out there having minutes. Now, granted, his minutes are already getting reduced.
And they won.
Yeah, and they won. And everyone's like, see, he didn't play and they won. I'm like, that's not a direct correlation, guys.
I'm just trolling.
Right.
I know.
And I think too, I think a lot of Pistons fans want your whole 14, 15-man roster to be filled with 19, 20-year-olds. When you, like you guys said,
right.
Compliment. Sean, I love that you brought up that word, because you can't, what successful team in the past 5 years, 10 years has had a team of only first-round picks of the past 2 or 3 years as their core and they go and win a championship? It doesn't happen. So if you watch what these good teams do, they bring in older guys that know how to get a bucket.
Right.
To, like Sean's point, I'm just repeating the crowd, compliment one another.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Jeremy too was a little ridiculous, because that was pre-Duren, and that trade ultimately led to you getting Duren. Like, I think you can at least say, if you're a Pistons fan looking at this team, like, you're comfortable with what they have with the young talent. Like, a year ago, you weren't as comfortable. You wanted to still add an Ivey and a Duren. Now it's the right time to keep a guy like Bojan. I think the Jeremy Grant thing, if you want to compare those and try and correlate it, it's just incorrect. It's different situation.
Because the other difference too is that with a guy like Jeremy Grant, he was looking for a 4 to 5 year deal.
Yeah.
Bojan Bogdanovic was looking for a 2-year extension.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was listening to another podcast on the way over, and this is actually, the news broke during the podcast, like while I was listening, and this podcast was obviously released before the trade, and they brought up Bojan's name. They're like, Bojan doesn't want to be in Detroit. And I was like, well, there goes that idea.
Those narratives.
Mm-hmm. So, but hey, and like, listen, some of that is just the fact that, like, Bojan, he did, like, wherever he ended up, he wanted to, like, look for a deal. But I think at the same time, like, it's pretty, it does speak, in my opinion, that he found a deal literally within the first couple of weeks of being in the franchise. Like, within 10 games, he was like, all right, I'll be here a couple of years.
It's like, I'm getting all these shots. I love it.
Oh, Cade Cunningham, he gets to dish it to me. Yeah. Where do I sign? 39 mil? Right. Sweet. Yeah, let's do this.
And I love the comments Steve Kerr had after the game too. He loves what the Pistons have currently. He's like, if they can defend, he's like, this team's going to be special. So again, that's high praise from Steve Kerr. So if those guys think Detroit's this non-attractive free agency destination, just wait, because I'm telling you right now, Memphis wasn't that attractive, were they? Before Ja Morant. Now look at them. You want to join Memphis.
Yeah.
Right. And the team that we have going for us too is our culture too. The 3 championships mean a lot.
Tell them, Troy.
We're restoring, boys. We're restoring.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if Troy just lifted up his he just had the shirt on.
Oh, yeah, that would be funny.
Because restore.
Yeah, we are well on our way, man. Even if we're down 12 right now, so when we're recording.
Hey, undefeated Bucks, all right? They're pretty good. They're a pretty good team. All right.
They are a good team.
Didn't you see that they slipped back to true form the next night?
I'm going to be like, I don't care, because that's
by the way, I'll tell those people, look at the 2 wins. They have 2 wins on the season. Both those wins are at home. That says a lot about the youth on this team. Like, obviously they're trying to learn how to win on the road. That's going to take time. I mean, it's funny, man. I love it. I love the banter with those types of fans. It's really it's funny to me.
Yeah, like you said, Milwaukee Bucks undefeated right now. Look sensational. Look like
they're pretty good. I would say that.
Yeah, I'd say that they might be good at this basketball things at some point. You know what I mean? Hey, we got more wins than the Houston Rockets right now, so we got that.
Oh, Sean, you fatty son of a gun, man.
Yeah, you know me. But anywho, let's talk Let's go NBA.
Uh.
Let's go NBA scope. Let's talk NBA because, guys, let's just be real. This season has been bonkers. It is. I don't think it's gone literally how any of us would have expected at all. Let's review real quick just where we're at with the standings, just with everything. If the NBA season were to end today, the play-in tournament in both conferences would be the following. In the Eastern Conference, you would have the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Chicago Bulls would be the play-in tournament in the East. In the West, it would be the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Denver Nuggets, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Dallas Mavericks.
Oof.
With the two teams missing the cut being the Warriors and the Clippers. Jeff, we're gonna, we're not talking Lakers. We'll talk about the other team in LA real quick. There's something going on with Kawhi here.
Yeah.
Because he played night one. He played very, very limited in game 3. And now he's like just going to be out for a while again?
Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I watched the opening night for the Clippers, and I went on the morning show the day after, and I'm like, you know what? I'm rescinding my Clippers pick. I'm going to lean with the Warriors because of that reason. Like Kawhi, I don't know what it is. And they don't really let anything out either. So with Kawhi, the situation's confusing.
And this was the other thing. He didn't even
clearly
start.
wrong.
He didn't come in until like the middle of the second quarter.
Yeah, he came off the bench.
Like Troy, I'm not sure if you've watched a whole lot of this, but he's only played in 2 games. He's only played about 20 minutes per game. That is bad.
And that's off a
right. The shots, I think, was it against the Lakers? The shots were kind of falling, but he still wasn't peak Raptors Kawhi.
Like you could tell that bounce wasn't quite there. Yeah, you could tell that bounce wasn't quite there. But again, guys, this whole season was predicated on Kawhi being ready by the end of the year. Is he even going to be able to play this year?
It would be a shame if not. It would be a shame if not, because you had all this hype going into the year, especially, you thought you got a healthy, John Wall back, and, he's out tonight as well. Paul George, I guess we saw a glimpse of what he's capable of doing last season, and especially even the year before that when they were in the Western Conference Finals. So you had all this hype around this team. And I know we're only less than 10 games in, but it seems like slowly those dreams and hopes are going away. But I think with a guy like Kawhi, you need star Kawhi on the floor if you're talking championship contender. He's just too valuable on both ends of the court.
Because even then, guys, if you think about it, let's think of when this team let's think back pre-COVID where the NBA world was. Like to start that season, right?
Right.
I remember specifically the 2019-20 season started. Opening night was Lakers-Clippers. And it was one of the highest anticipated matchups in the NBA calendar.
Yep.
Right? Because this was the Western Conference Finals preview. These were the 2 juggernauts in the Western Conference for years to come. I don't even know if I have the Clippers as my 5th favorite team in the West right now.
No,
and
again, but no, go on. Sorry,
I was just gonna say, and you then you throw in the fact that Kawhi, it's like you don't even know if you're getting full Kawhi back this year. Like Paul George, he was good last year when he played, but he had that shoulder injury for a while again. That's the thing is he can't really fully stay on the court either. And now it's you're looking at the Clippers. They gave up all these assets, and now they're just pretty much in the exact same situation they were in when they had Blake and CP3, where it's man, this team has a lot of talent to do some really good things. I just don't ever see it happening. It's to me, everything has to come together at once very rapidly for this team to have any sort of chance of doing anything this season. And I don't think it's happening. Now, I will say John Wall, John Wall's been fun to watch. It's been enjoyable to see the glimmers of old John Wall again. He's still not old John Wall.
No.
But there's definitely those flashes of, I think he does have some of that burst back. Some.
And you mentioned it too, rapidly. Well, I'll give you a pun. Kawhi Leonard needs to rapidly turn into the Toronto Raptors version of Kawhi.
Yeah.
Because that's what he needs to be for this team to win a championship. Because Paul George, I've been a very hard critic of Paul George over the last couple of years. Listen, Paul George, and it's right on par this season too. And I don't know if it's the shoulder injury lingering. I don't want to completely come out and trash the man. But he had one game against the Sacramento Kings where he had 40 points, 16 of 31, played well. They won by 2 points. I'll read you the other games. 15 points, 16 points, 10 points, 14 points. Like, Paul George isn't that dude. Like, you need Kawhi to come in and be that original, that Kawhi that led the Raptors to the championship. And now it's asking a lot coming off an ACL injury, but that's the reality. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, am I really putting my faith in Paul George to at least keep this team afloat until Kawhi gets back? Hell no.
Well, Jeff, the problem is Paul George used to be that dude.
Yeah. Oh, yes. In Indiana was that dude. Correct.
Well, even then in Oklahoma City,
I
would even argue him coming to the Clippers was at his perceived peak, at his perceived prime. I would argue when they came together, they were both top 10 players in the league. You could make an argument neither of them are top 25 right now.
And that's
right.
That's the problem.
That's crazy. If that tells you about like where parity is at,
right?
Just like how this team is perceived now versus a couple years ago, and I would even say the roster surrounding these guys versus a couple years ago is better. That's the great, and they have a better coach too. Like, it's not like they're lacking things. So that's been disappointing. From Half Court is brought to you by Manscaped. When we talk about post players, there is few better players in the restricted area than our friends over at Manscaped. With great products such as the Lawnmower 4.0 with skin-safe technology, the Weed Whacker, their deodorants, lotions, and more, Manscaped is unrivaled when it comes to the men's hygiene game, serving over 8 million balls worldwide. That's a lot of testicles, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're finding yourself in need of Manscaped products, be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout, because that can get you 20% off plus free shipping. Our friends at Manscaped sent us these products, and I can tell you that they are absolutely for real. I have been absolutely satisfied and in love with their entire product line, from boxers, t-shirts, the Lawnmower 4.0 to the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer. You can really not go wrong. Be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout for 20% off plus free shipping. Thank you again to our friends at Manscaped for sponsoring this video. The most disappointing team, though, and this is saying something, because guys, there are some teams that are laying some turd sandwiches throughout the NBA right now. Philly. People were talking about them having to fire their coach after the first few games. That still doesn't lay a finger to what is going on in Brooklyn, New York.
Right. Hey, they're going to win tonight, Sean. They're going to win tonight.
They're going to beat the Indiana Pacers tonight after getting thumped by the Indiana Pacers at home. They're only up by 13 or 15 in the second half, by the way. So I wouldn't rule out the Nets winning this one just yet.
The team can't have a nosebleed.
Yeah, 100%.
Same with the Pistons. Man. I should be talking, but Troy, I want to hear your opinion on my take. We said it on the Booner Sports Show, and it's just a feeling I had about this team. I thought they'd be better than they were now, but for some reason what I've been at least looking at the Nets over the last couple of years with Steve Nash, the last 2 years, the thing I've noticed is I don't know if he can coach. And that's my issue with Steve Nash. And now seeing how the start they went off to this year, I said it on the Booner Sports Show. Shout out to Booner. I don't think Steve Nash will finish the season as the Nets head coach. I just think that, watching how he handled the postseason last year and the lack thereof of adjustments and just everything, his philosophy. And then you have other problems, by the way, which we're going to get into. I don't want to hear Sean's thoughts on it. But Steve Nash alone is an issue as well. Like, and you saw the meme come out, what was it, like a week ago? We had the bug eyes, which was hilarious, by the way. But it has nothing to do with that. It's him as a coach. I'm not sold on it. And I didn't, even when he was first hired, I wasn't sold on it. Love Steve Nash as a player, but that's someone I could see kind of being the sacrificial lamb, if you will, when the season's all done and over with. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's something to definitely watch. And it's just hard because you construct this team too as, man, I just think trading Harden, I'm still kind of iffy on that, because you bring in a guy like Ben Simmons, and sure, whatever, he can contribute, but he's nowhere near the Ben Simmons we saw in his peak in Philadelphia, right? So
it's early,
you're gonna
but
put
the
a
returns so
lot,
far have not been great.
right? You're gonna do it for the second year in a row now. You're gonna put so much weight on Kevin Durant's shoulders, in my opinion, and I just don't think that this team, with how deep the East is getting now, I just don't think the team has all its pieces today as of November 2nd. To make it really out of the East right now. I just don't think they have the pieces. Now, obviously, we know that a beautiful thing about the NBA is trades. And
But what do
we
they
know
have to trade, Troy? They gave
and
up
that's
all
kind
these
of
assets to go.
that's
Go
my
get.
next point
They're
is
pretty thin.
I don't think they can make that trade to put them over the hump. So I'm not saying I'm counting them out right here, right now, but man, Kevin Durant's going to have to do something like we've never seen him do before, or Ben Simmons is going to have to step up, and Kyrie. And I'm going to leave that to Sean's now. Sean, tell us about what you think about Kyrie's performance this season.
Oh man, Kyrie Irving.
Look at his face light up.
Man, okay. So I want to preface this with Kyrie Irving used to be my favorite player in the NBA. And Troy, you can attest to this. I used to say that Kyrie Irving was the most must watch box office player in basketball.
I hooped in his sneakers.
Whenever I had the chance of turning on a Kyrie Irving game, I took the chance. I think it's time we start having a conversation of Kyrie Irving's place in the NBA, because what he's done of late, what he's done over the last couple of years, the guy is not who I remember. Let's start with the fact that since leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kyrie Irving has won 11 playoff games. 11. This is after all of his runs with LeBron and getting back, getting to the finals, being, having a shot in game 6, being one of the top players in the world. He goes to Boston. He's like, all right, I'm going to go run my team. Gets faced with criticism and leadership. He goes, nope. And immediately goes, don't want that. And goes to Brooklyn. Since coming to Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving has yet to play 60 games in a season.
Wow.
In 2021-22, he will tell you that he would have gladly played if he wasn't forced to miss those games. He made the active decision to not get vaccinated and therefore not play. We could talk about politics all you want. He had an active choice to either be vaccinated or not play. He chose to not play. That's his decision. Whatever is going on in New York right now with like the repercussions and everything like that, I don't care. Kyrie made his decision. And with that, we now come to this season where, yes, Kyrie Irving is playing really good basketball. He's averaging a career high in minutes. He's averaging a career high in points. His efficiency is not quite there in the 3-point side of things. But you know what? Kyrie, he's been there. He's been hooping for all intents and purposes. But what he's also been doing is been taking the time to not only post and reference to a film that is actually full of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and sentiments that are wild, by the way. But also a few weeks ago decided to share a clip of Alex Jones, InfoWars lunatic, Sandy Hook shooting conspiracy theorist, whack job piece of shit, Alex Jones.
Not his first time doing that, by the way.
Yeah, not his first time doing that. And when faced with just an ounce of accountability and criticism. And by the way, the media was pretty respectful in their questioning and in their pushback. Nick Friedel, one of the best writers we have in this business,
Kept his cool.
kept his cool, didn't stand down, kept the question going. And now we are faced with a situation where fans are showing up to an NBA game with fight anti-Semitism on their shirts, right front row in front of Kyrie Irving, because of the fact that we have a player who's just openly, unapologetically, uneducated, sharing anti-Semitic conspiracy theory fluff garbage. And so we can talk all we want about Kyrie and the player he was. We could talk all we want about what he can do on the basketball court. That guy is gone. At this point, this is Antonio Brown on the hardwood. This is Kanye West with a basketball in his hands. This guy is off the deep end. And in my opinion, he's let himself fall off. And you know what? The Nets, I feel bad for them. They have to deal with this in the first place. If I was an NBA organization after this season, I wouldn't even consider signing him more than a one-year deal. This guy is a joke, an absolute joke.
And it's so sad too. I mean, for how talented he is, how skilled he is, he is still arguably one of the most skilled NBA players of all time. What he can do at his height, one of the best finishers, one of the best ball handlers. I mean, the list goes on with Kyrie. But the fact that, and it has nothing to do with about being woke, because there's certain things that Kyrie says in the past that I've agreed with, but then there's these things that are just disgusting. And that's where it becomes undefendable. Like, he is inexcusable is another word for it. And I didn't even know that picture existed, Sean. That's my first time seeing that picture. I didn't know fans showed up like that.
That was just tonight. So this was something I just saw on Twitter, brought to your guys' attention just now. Like,
the Nets are going to have to make a decision. And they really are. Like, this is a guy that not only is representing your organization, but someone that you think you can win with. And obviously his main focus is in basketball. And that's something I can respect about Cade. It's not about having hobbies. That's fine. You could do other things besides being an NBA player. But if your focus at this point in Kyrie's career, he's already won a championship, he's already solidified his legacy. Now, you could add to it, certainly, right, but it seems like he's just completely checked out from the NBA, and that's a problem. I mean, especially with Kevin Durant, who's still always locked in. It's unfair to him. It's unfair to everybody else in that team, and it's sad to see. It really is.
My thing with Kyrie, and Troy, this has been my thing with Kyrie for years. Not only does he seem completely checked out from the NBA, I mean, not only was there the vaccination thing last year, there was also the thing the season before, the season after, like during like the full COVID season, right, where he just decided just to take a leave and just be gone for like 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the thing he did. And, a lot of times he talks about his focuses on spirituality and on the world and on all these things. The problem is, you can't be saying that you have this focus on educating and on spirituality and peace, and then in the same breath go openly share anti-Semitic bullshit. Like, you can't. Right. Now Joe Tsai of the Nets, I do want to share this quick before I kind of give you a chance to talk on this a little bit, Troy. Joe Tsai of the Nets, the owner, spoke out immediately after the press conference, saying, "I'm disappointed that Kyrie appears to support a film based on a book full of anti-Semitic disinformation. I want to sit down and make sure he understands this is hurtful to all of us. And as a man of faith, it is wrong to promote hate based on race, ethnicity, or religion. This is bigger than basketball." So Joe Tsai of the Nets taking a pretty clear stand. Troy, to me, I wrote an article about this on Sunday as well, kind of stating that at this point, Kyrie's more harm than good. To me, the antics for years have been passed because of his talent, but it's pretty clear. I mean, Jeff and Troy, Ben, both of you, but like, when you're not winning games either,
right,
it's way less cute.
Yeah,
it is way less cute.
That level changes a lot, and anti-Semitism has been around for a long time, and it doesn't make it right as the years go on too. I mean, I would argue it's not a head issue; it's more of a heart issue, and I don't think Kyrie has softened his heart and listened to what others have to say, listen to what the world it has to say about obviously hate and
Right.
if you want to go deeper with this, genocide and things that we've seen over the years as well. And it's too bad too with the losing as well. Like Jeff said, one of the most skilled players we've ever seen, and now is in a situation where his team isn't winning. These antics, especially in a time with Kanye and all these other people, the anti-Semitism is definitely growing in our country and growing in the world. And we've seen times like this over and over again in world history, and it just seems like we're not learning from our past as well. We're not educating ourselves in ways that we can prevent something like this. So it's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate that the game we love has spoiled in some ways by letting some of this ideology creep into again the game we love. So yeah, I guess I don't think any of this stuff is going to go away either, unfortunately. So I think in the weeks and months to come, we might have more to add to this.
By the way, my favorite thing was when Kyrie stated that he did read the book, but then in another breath also stated that he found this movie earlier in the week when he was just on Amazon, and he just was like, I'm just going to search Yahweh and see what comes up on Amazon. So the fact is that like Kyrie doesn't even know what he's sharing. And the other thing is that he pretty much even said himself that he doesn't even stand fully by what these projects or even the Alex, he doesn't stand by them entirely. He only stands with certain elements. So you want to translate that, guys?
Yeah.
He only believes what he agrees with, and
Right.
that's called affirmation bias. That means you're going to take literally everything that you want to see and ignore everything you don't want to see. And that's great, especially, but the problem is with Alex Jones, you're like, yeah, I don't support him. That's great. You shared an InfoWars clip on your social media for hundreds of thousands and millions of people to see. You are openly sharing Alex Jones and InfoWars content on your Instagram. That is promotion, whether you want it to be or not. You idiot.
And the sad part about that is to not be self-aware enough to know how much your words and what you post on social media has an impact on a lot of people that look up to Kyrie. Like, this is a guy who's a role model for a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, even a lot of adults. Like, this is a guy that a lot of people do like, despite the stupid things he does. But as a basketball player, the impact he has on people, and for him to do this and abuse his power and not know what he's doing, like he said in the press conference, not fully understand, it's sad. Like these people, and this is something that I can always give LeBron credit for. And again, LeBron's an anomaly because a lot of players, not everyone can have that type of stature for his entire career. But knowing how much your words and your actions have and the impact it has on everybody, not Nets fans of Kyrie, like it's not just Kyrie. It's not all about you. It's about the people who see these actions you're doing. And it's a terrible, terrible example to set. It really is.
This is another guy who is a flat earther too. So I mean, any idea that just comes, he creeps, he preaches, and
so. Forgot about that one.
He's just showing himself to be a conspiracy theorist, guys. Like, I'm sorry, that's just what he is. You're a whack job conspiracy theorist. The other thing too, my favorite thing he did during that entire thing, because you talk about how the fact that like he understands that he has influence. My favorite thing during this entire press conference was that he stated, and he literally said, he literally said that he understands that he has influence, and that he does have this ability to have an influence over a group of people. But then, literally a minute later, he said, "You guys come in here and make up this powerful influence that I have." This was not even 2 minutes after acknowledging the influence that he has.
Right.
It's not even the fact that he's being immoral. It's not even the fact that he's being a distraction.
Right.
It's not even the fact that like what he's standing on is just outright egregious. It's also the fact that he's just flat out a dumbass and just standing into that even firmer.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, just tell me you don't know what you're talking about without telling me you don't know what you're talking about. Oh my Lord. But anyway, like that. Yeah, man, I could go on the Kyrie thing all day, but that's just the thing. We've talked for several minutes about the Nets, and hardly any of it's been about basketball. And the other problem with that, guys, is because when we are talking about basketball with the Brooklyn Nets, there's really not a lot that's worth talking about. Somehow a team, and you talk about, Jeff, to your point, you want to talk about, like where you see coaching and like, like where, like where you see like the problems, like seep through. What through the first few games, the Nets had one of the lower offensive ratings in the NBA when they had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on your team. The fact that right now they're currently listed as 12th in the league in offensive rating, even the fact they have KD and Kyrie and they're not even in the top 10 is mind-boggling. But also, defensively, they're 30th in the league. They were fighting with the Detroit Pistons back and forth for that for quite a while. The Nets decided they really wanted to have it. So the Nets have held on to that 30th spot defensively for a while. And by the way, even though they have injuries, the guys that are coming back, Seth Curry, not a defender. Joe Harris, not a defender. So not like any of the guys that they're waiting for on the wings are going to come back and help them on that side of the ball. So it is a nightmare. If I'm Kevin Durant, I'm reigniting the trade request as soon as humanly possible.
Right. We forgot about that. We haven't touched on that in so long that he requested a trade this summer.
Yeah. And you know what? Like he because for the most part, he's kind of been like, all right, I understand. Let's see what we can do this season. And the answer so far is Jack Diddley. Another team that's doing Jack Diddley, the Miami Heat at 2-5. This team over in South Beach. We have to start here with one player in particular. And I do want to, like if we all have our candles or like, our cell phones near us, we want to do like, like the flat, we want to like, like put on like the flashlight, like moment of silence, type thing for anyone, like Kyle Lowry. It's been a good run, buddy.
Sure.
He is certifiably washed.
Hey, now we know why they wanted Donovan Mitchell so bad, because it's just Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero's gotten to the point where he's starting. Like, this is the guy who's coming off the bench. It's like, no, Tyler, we need you. You could start. This team lacks that depth they had previously. I mean, I love Bam, I love Jimmy, but they do need that one more piece for Miami. And it's not Kyle Lowry, to your point. They thought they were getting Kyle Lowry, and it's like, it's baked goods. It's the opposite of what you wanted. You're like, oh, I paid for the Raptors Kyle Lowry. I'm getting much older role player Kyle Lowry, which again, if you had more talent, it'd be fine, but they need more out of Kyle and it's just not there. So it's unfortunate.
You know what it reminds me of?
Love
the Miami Heat to me are the Green Bay Packers of the NBA.
Stop.
Where
You're right.
where last year they were in a position to surprisingly contend. And you went into next year being like, man, if they had some pieces, they could actually be dangerous. And then you go into the next season going like, I'm sorry, what now? They're actually getting worse and they're going to suck now. And like what I'm talking about in particular, like obviously they didn't lose a Devontae Adams type player like the Packers did. But you know what they did lose? PJ Tucker. Mm-hmm. And that loss is looking more and more apparent each and every day. I mean, guys, we talk about, Miami Heat culture, a lot of its toughness on both ends of the basketball. The Heat are currently 20th in the NBA in defense.
It's different.
Like, this is Heat culture we're talking about, and they can't even do that. And so, they still have Eric Spoelstra, but the problem is, like, even like Victor Oladipo, he hasn't even played this year yet. He hasn't even been, he even then, like, he hasn't even been that great when he's been on the court anyway. Throughout like last year. Kyle Lowry, it's like you kind of pray he's not on the court after a certain point. Tyler Hero's been balling, but Jimmy Butler, he's never going to be the guy that's going to go out there and hoop each and every single night. Dang it, I just saw that picture of him with the troll dreadlocks on Basketball Reference again. God, that was brilliant of Jimmy Butler for doing that. But man, the Heat are going to be, the Heat are not going to be that good this year. They're going to be certified. I'm ready to say it now, guys. Miami Heat are certified mid.
Yeah.
There are mid-Dorellas.
they don't really have any pieces to make you think they can be contenders. I
They
mean, I
don't
guess
even have pieces where they can make a trade.
right.
That's the
Right.
problem. You might have
Like,
to. I think
you'd
Tyler
almost
Hero.
have to like you'd almost have to take assets to move that Duncan Robinson contract.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which by the
Not the
way,
best
that Duncan
one.
Robinson contract. Like there's just like you look all around this Heat roster and it's like, I'm sorry, you have this guy for how much money?
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't like the Heat this year. And as the season started, it's just not looking great for them.
No.
Also, I did want to give some news as well. We were talking about the Clippers a little bit ago and Kawhi and being concerned with his injury. There are reports saying that Kawhi can mix that Kawhi is likely to miss the next 6 games with
Wow.
knee injury management.
6 will probably turn into 10, knowing him though.
But they're already saying
Yeah.
6.
Right.
If there's not alarm bells to be rung, if there's not a red flag to be raised, I'm telling you right now, here we go. That's the red.
I never want to hear that red flag.
Yeah,
ever again.
same. We're not doing that one. We'll do a
That
different
red
one.
flag.
Or
needs
we
to
can
be
do.
I can do that.
I can work
do
with that. I can work with that.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have some. We'll do some segments with that later. I'll have some like pre-recorded segments next time. But man, overall too, like if now like talking about like on the flip side, positive surprises, things that have happened, guys. All these teams that we talked about tanking. I mean, first of all, the Portland Trailblazers are 5-1.
Shout out Chauncey Billups.
They look awesome.
Shout out
Dame
Dave
is
Sharp.
Dame is injured with a calf strain. He'll miss like a week or two. However, they've just looked awesome.
Yeah.
And in addition, the Utah Jazz, they're slipping a little back more to reality, but both them and the Spurs are 5-2. Guys, what the heck is going on? This has been insane.
Yeah. This is the best part about the NBA season early on is because you have teams that, will get off to a good start and then things kind of level out. And you have good teams that get off to bad starts and then they end up leveling out. So this is the time of the year it's most entertaining to talk about it because you see some teams like the Spurs, which, my God, you trade away DeJounte Murray and what are they already in the playoffs projected right now? It's not going to be that way, but it's funny just looking at where they all
right. It's more of a humorous kind of thing, Sean. But to Jeff's point, I think to those two teams, he said Portland and San Antonio, good coaches. Coaching matters at this level. And I think with those two teams in particular, you can coach your way into a couple wins, but to keep it steady, to be a playoff team.
Yeah.
Talent, that'll last that over time.
Yeah. And no, they're not going to be a playoff team. Absolutely right there. But like you guys said, first of all, I think it just shows the parity that we have in this league with just the sheer amount of talent that we have for guys like Lauri Markkanen could come out of the wings. By the way, rather Geno Smith-esque out of Lauri Markkanen right now. Talk about all the NFL parallels that we're having. I mean, Lauri Markkanen right now looks pretty solid, but as a whole, I think you're just seeing all the different talent that's throughout the league. I mean, all the different guys are getting 30+ point games. I think we're seeing, a lot more transition basketball than we've seen over the last couple of years. Guys, the product as a whole has just been more fun to watch this year too.
Yep.
Like it really has been. Like it's just been a stellar season so far. And if this is what it's just been through the first 2 weeks, buckle up, man.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. So I'm excited. It's going to be, there's a lot of great things to come up. One last story I do want to touch on quick before we get to our segment ending with Troy here. The San Antonio Spurs did have to make a rather sudden move this week when they cut former first round pick Josh Primo out of nowhere the other night. Primo specifically, is now has cleared waivers and is now technically a free agent. Technically, So it sounds like what is happening, according to reports from Sham Charania, reportedly Primo had exposed himself to a former Spurs female employee. And this is all alleged as of right now. However, the fact that he was, waived from the franchise, reportedly she is seeking legal actions. Reportedly, she's hiring the same lawyer that is prosecuting Deshaun Watson. And so Josh Primo, a guy who was drafted number 12 overall. I remember Troy even just sitting there at the time. I know we were watching that draft, and I know a lot of people didn't like the pick from them in the first place. Obviously, not doesn't lead that doesn't lead anything into this situation. But I mean, just talking about how unprecedented it is to see a guy at this at this stage of his career, at this stage of his contract, be waived like this, but also, just heartbreaking to see that this type of thing's happening in the NBA world.
Right.
What was your takeaway when you saw this, and what do you think is important to learn from this type of thing?
Yeah, for me, I think with the guy with much talent as he did, that's what makes it, I think, even more sad. Guys will do anything; they'll give their life to be in the NBA or to even make an NBA basket. And he's a guy that did those things. And I think, obviously, we live in a culture where men need to be held accountable for that kind of stuff. I mean, it's no secret. And
Well, and we need a culture too that
Yeah.
women can feel safe to
Right.
go to work, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
we need culture. We need a culture where everyone, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, their gender, their religion, their sexual orientation,
Mhm.
they should be able to go. They should be able to go to work and be comfortable, and they should be able to go to work and not have that type of thing happen. It's just
Right.
heartbreaking, and
Yeah.
also,
Yeah, just character matters too. I think
Yeah.
character matters more than talent in a lot of cases, because why would you want a player like that on your team if he can score all the points in the world, but has those exposures and has that type of personality? I'm not personality, but type of inside heart where that's what he's led to do. So
Yeah.
that morality, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. And Jeff, I mean, the big thing, with a guy like Coach Pop, I mean, he's not going to care if you're a first round pick,
No.
you're a last pick. I mean, he's not going to tolerate that type of thing. He's going to cut you with no hesitation there, right? But, obviously there's still more information to learn. And it's obviously just a sad situation, but ultimately, I mean, this is the reality of the NBA world. There's consequences for your actions, and Josh Primo kind of now like one of those guys that could be one of those big what ifs in the NBA world.
Yeah, no, it's like to your point earlier about Pop. It's like it doesn't matter where you're drafted. Once you're in there, you're on the same pecking order. You have equal opportunity. And for Josh Primo, it's disgusting. Really, I don't know if they're we have to wait till the court case plays out and
Yep.
things play out over time. But the fact that the Spurs waived him, nobody claimed him. He went through all the waivers, and I know NBA teams are interested. They're kind of not monitoring the situation. But it's just this stuff. I mean, for a guy who's that young, had all the measurables coming out of college, went to Alabama, played for 1 year there, out of Huntington Prep. It is what it is. Like, this guy clearly has a problem. I think that's number one that needs to be noted. For him to be that young, you're an NBA player. You already have the popularity of being an NBA player. You can't tell me you can't go get women and like anybody else, or like the fact that you're exposing yourself, or at least allegedly exposing yourself to a female employee. It's like, it's sick in the head, in my opinion. And I'm kind of waiting to see how this plays out, because it's unfortunate for a guy who had a lot of potential. This is why these opportunities, and it's a learning lesson for other people in the league, other players, young players, that this can be taken away very quickly. And,
Yep.
and Josh Primo is realizing that right now. Like, you make one mistake, it might be over for you.
Well, even then too, a lot of these guys, coming into the league, and I know it's easy for, young male athletes to feel, a lot of power, because the truth is these guys do have a lot of power, right? A lot of these guys, are bringing generational wealth to their families, are figures and viewed as leaders in their communities. You know what I mean? Like, these people are, a lot of times, very powerful people, but the reality of it is that you don't have the power to like think that you can, treat a person like that, or to do anything along those lines. So, I think the NBA has a more than any other league right now, especially like the NFL. I think they handle their moral situations very very directly, very succinctly. And, obviously, whether or not we'll see him back in the league someday, time will ultimately tell. But, Jeff, as you did say, NBA teams are monitoring the situation. It does sound like legal action will be sought. So I would imagine that there will be some form of court case coming up. Ultimately, time will tell. And as there is more to discuss at that time, we will. But that is all we have on that right now. But with that, Troy, before we start wrapping up this pod, before we all go and watch the rest of this Pistons Bucks game, we got to do what we do each and every time we get to this point in the episode. It is time to go from Mount Rushmore. And Troy, we are on this Hall of Famer series that we have been doing. I know we took a break last week when Jeff was, rudely celebrating the birthday of his father. Gosh, the nerve.
Shame on you, Jeff.
Yeah, who cares about 60, man? It's
Dude,
overrated.
yeah, it's like, dude, I was like, Jeff, you have to choose your family or me, And it's like, and this guy decides to go to his family. Like, what is he think?
Thank you guys for holding it down, by the way. Appreciate you, fellas.
Yeah, this man decided instead of from half court to be from half father. But anyway, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Anyway, I'm kidding. Anywho, Troy, what do you have for us this time, my friend?
Yeah, so same series as you just mentioned. I guess we could call this the should he, will he aspect of the Hall of Fame. So when I say a player, and I'd love for you guys to say some players of old, we're going to answer that question. Should he be a Hall of Famer? And then will he be a Hall of Famer? So we're going to give two answers, and I'm going to start with Amari Stoudemire. Amari Stoudemire is a guy who had a great career with the Suns. Start off, a guy who was a multi-time All-Star, averaged a double-double at least 1 year in his career. Went to the New York Knicks, paired with Carmelo. Honestly, he was the number 2 option on that team in a lot of ways. So, he's a guy that the stats are there for him. Not necessarily the winning, but the All-Star games are there for him. So I'm going to have to say with Amari Stoudemire, should he? Yes. And will he? No, for now. I just think with his career, he had so much going for him, but I just think when it comes down to at least the next 5 to 10 years, 15 years, they're going to be looking at the winners. And Amari Stoudemire didn't get it done. Even a finals, guys.
Yeah. No, so, he got to I believe he got to a conference finals, but that's kind of about it. And I mean, when you look at his totality of his career as well, he like in his prime, really from his third year, in Phoenix until, obviously. And then, after that, there was the year where he had the injury in 05-06. But, beyond that, like when he got to New York, he was very good at the start. His first year in New York, he was awesome. And then the rest of his tenure in New York happened. And that's the thing with Amari Stoudemire was that he was great in his prime, but his decline was rather steep, rather quick. And as much as I loved watching, Amari Stoudemire, his career in Phoenix, the great 8-year run that he had there, for me personally, I don't know if he's done quite enough. I mean, should he? You could definitely, you could definitely make a case for it. Will he? I'm going no.
Yeah, I'm going should he? No, in my opinion. I hold the Hall of Fame in a little different regard. I think if you're not winning, you better be a hell of a player. And he was a hell of a player, but I just don't think the longevity-wise, having to go pro, I get he was 34 years old. But for Amari, I love Amari, by the way. Amari's one of my favorite players to watch, but it doesn't mean he's a Hall of Famer. So I'm going to go no and no. Still a hell of a player, though.
Yeah.
It's tough because it's like one of those things where it's hard to forget. Like he did have a point where he was like one of the better players in the league, but it's like he was never even the best player on his team.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it.
And like, really, you're right, guys, with what you're voting for Hall of Fame in a lot of ways. If you're a second option on a team, that team better have won a championship, right?
Yep.
In that team, like it's not that like that. And even like, and I would say of the teams over the last 20 years that haven't won a championship, I would say that Suns team is probably the highest regarded. And there is a lot of things it did do in the way of revolutionizing basketball with the 7-second offense and all that type of stuff, but they didn't get it done. And as great as Amari Stoudemire was, not only was he not even the best player on his team, he was never even the best player at his position.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's like at a certain point, like with those guys, it's like you're gonna have someone in the Hall of Fame. It's got to be someone that you're making that like you're gonna like die on that hill and make that case. Like Amari was like one of the better players for sure, and there was definitely a time where it was like, man, that guy's dangerous, but his decline was quick, steep, and you knew he was never gonna be the best player on a team that was gonna do anything significant. You just knew.
Sure. Let's get some names, guys.
Man, Hall of Famers, potential Hall of Famers. I mean, I know. Oh my gosh, dude, you're just wanting us to come out. Jeff, do you have any names off the top of your head?
No, I was actually gonna say you could just skip me for this one. I'll go with you guys. I'll just react to what you guys are saying.
We can be done with the segment if you want, but
You want to do a player in episode? We'll do
yeah,
that.
that's fine. We can just be done with Amari and
I'll come in with the homework. I'll really deep dive.
Okay,
here.
that's fine.
Let's do a player in episode. Let's do a player in episode.
Covered Amari. Well, we both agree. We all agreed. All three of us no. Well, you said yes, Troy, but no.
I said yes, should, but no, will. Yes.
Okay, I respect that.
By the way, real quick, Steve Nash, easy Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I
Should
so.
and will.
Yeah.
I'm with Troy there.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, always good seeing you both.
Yes, sir.
Always a great time talking basketball. Be sure that you're going and following my guys, Jeff on Twitter over at Jeff Iafrady, Troy on Twitter at Troy Sergey44. That is going to do it, folks, for this episode of From Half Court. Thank you so much for tuning in. From Half Court, of course, the podcast where you make your home for NBA news, NBA breakdowns, but also the Detroit Pistons and everything going on from the lens of a Pistons fan. If you like that, make sure you like this pod, subscribe, and be sure that you're sharing with your friends. By the way, that guy right there, Troy Weaver, he and I had like a 20-minute convo that night. Now, like he like passed me. I was like, Mr. Weaver. He was like, how's it going? I was like, it's going great. He's like, yes, sir. Big night. I was like, yep, have a good one. He walked away.
You guys are boys now, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, we practically, I'm on his Christmas registry, we share Christmas cards, like talking about our families, all that type of stuff. Yeah, but no, in all seriousness, thank you all so much for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.